The Beatles have sold more records than any band in history, over 600 million. But their real legacy isn't just in numbers. It's in the way their music still makes people cry, smile, fall in love, or feel seen. These weren't just four guys with guitars. They changed the world without meaning to. So how did a band that broke up over 50 years ago still feel more alive than ever? Why do their songs still show up at weddings, protests, stadiums, funerals, even your favorite playlist? Stick around, because this isn't just about music, it's about something timeless. Back in 1960, in a rough city called Liverpool, a rebellious teenager named John Lennon started a band with a couple of mates. They were raw, messy, and not very good, but they had heart. Paul McCartney joined soon after, and then came George Harrison, a quiet kid with serious guitar skills. Ringo Starr would be the last to join, but when he did, everything clicked. They started off as the Quarrymen, playing in basement clubs in Liverpool and sweaty bars in Hamburg, Germany. They weren't famous, they weren't polished, but they were hungry, and they were getting better fast. Everything changed when Brian Epstein, a local music store manager, saw them play and offered to be their manager. He got them suits, a clean image, and gigs that paid. Then came producer George Martin, the man who would shape their sound and help turn noise into genius. Their first single, Love Me Do, was just the beginning. Then came Please Please Me, and just like that, Beatlemania was born. By the time they hit American TV on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1964, it was like someone had lit a match in a fireworks factory. They weren't just famous, they were untouchable. Fast forward to today, and the numbers alone are enough to make your head spin. Over 600 million records sold, 21 #1 hits in the US 7 Grammy Awards. The Beatles are the best-selling band of all time. But the legacy goes way beyond charts. They changed how we experience music. Before them, albums were just collections of songs. They made albums into journeys. Rubber Soul, Revolver, Sgt. Pepper. These weren't just records, they were ideas. They used the studio like an instrument. They brought sitars into pop songs, blended orchestras with rock guitars, and wrote lyrics that made you think, cry, or question everything. And it wasn't just the music. The way they dressed, the way they spoke, the causes they stood for, it all shaped the world around them. They made it cool to be deep, to care, to stand for something. And they didn't just change music. They changed youth culture forever. You'd think a story this legendary would have ended long ago, but it hasn't. Paul McCartney, now 81, is still touring the world, still playing sold-out stadiums, still singing like a man in love with the stage. His 2023 Got Back tour was a global event. Tens of thousands of fans, many born decades after the Beatles broke up, sang Hey Jude with him in perfect unison. Ringo Starr, now 83, continues to tour with his all-star band, bringing joy and energy like it's still the 60s. And then there's the legacy of the two who are no longer with us. John Lennon, assassinated in 1980, and George Harrison, who passed away in 2001, are still present in everything the Beatles touch. Their families keep their music alive, their messages vibrant, and in 2023, thanks to AI technology, Lennon's voice was resurrected for the final Beatles song, Now and Then. It was haunting, beautiful, and proof that even time can't silence them. If you think the Beatles are only for boomers, think again. Their music is everywhere. Gen Z fans are discovering them on TikTok. Instagram pages with millions of followers post Beatles quotes and rare footage. Tribute bands like Rain or the Fab Four perform around the world, packing theaters with fans who weren't even born when the band split. And then there's the tourism. Abbey Road in London, yes. The actual zebra crossing from the album cover is still flooded with fans trying to recreate the walk. Penny Lane in Liverpool isn't just a street, it's a pilgrimage. The Strawberry Field Orphanage that inspired Strawberry Fields Forever is now a visitor center. Every new reissue, every remastered album or anniversary edition becomes a global event. Even documentaries like Peter Jackson's Get Back have drawn millions of viewers, proving the fascination never died. It just evolved. Here's something you probably didn't know: the entire Please Please Me album was recorded in a single day. 10 songs, 13 hours, no second takes. And it ended with John Lennon shredding his vocal cords to belt out Twist and Shout. Paul McCartney's most famous melody, Yesterday, came to him in a dream. He woke up, stumbled to a piano, and started playing. The original lyrics? Scrambled eggs. Oh my baby, how I love your legs. Ringo wasn't always Ringo. Born Richard Starkey, he got his nickname from the many rings he wore, and because it sounded like a cowboy. Strawberry Fields Forever wasn't a fantasy. It was a real place where young John Lennon used to sneak into the garden behind an orphanage. And yes, they had their own cartoon. From 1965 to 1969, the Beatles had a Saturday morning animated series where they fought monsters and solved mysteries. It was wacky, and people loved it. But not everything was smooth sailing. In 1966, John Lennon said the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. It wasn't meant to brag. He was criticizing how society was turning away from religion, but America wasn't ready for that, especially the Bible Belt. Radio stations banned their songs. Fans burned records. Lennon had to apologize publicly. Internally, things were breaking too. Brian Epstein's death in 1967 left a massive void. Creative control turned into creative conflict. Business fights, ego clashes, and outside influences, especially John's deepening relationship with Yoko Ono, pulled them apart. Even George, often the quiet one, was fed up with being ignored. Ringo quit at one point. By April 1970, Paul officially announced he was done. The Beatles were no more. And then there's the weird part: some fans believed Paul had died in a car crash in 1966 and had been replaced by a lookalike. They pointed to clues in album covers and backward lyrics. It was nonsense, but it shows how deeply fans were invested in the mystery. What makes their story timeless isn't just the music, it's the message. Songs like Let It Be, All You Need Is Love, and Here Comes the Sun are more than just melodies. They're comfort, encouragement, a light in the dark. The Beatles proved that creativity and vulnerability could go hand in hand. They weren't afraid to change, to fail, to speak out. That courage inspired generations of musicians. U2, Coldplay, Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, BTS, all of them have cited the Beatles as influences. But it's not just about artists. Their story gives hope to anyone with a dream. They came from nothing. They argued. They made mistakes. But they created something eternal. And their lyrics? They still teach us how to live, how to love, and how to keep going. The love you take is equal to the love you make. That's not just a lyric, that's a philosophy. They may have stopped recording in 1970, but the Beatles never really ended. Their music still plays in cars, weddings, funerals, protests, and parties. It lifts people, connects generations, inspires millions. The world they sang about wasn't always real, but they made us believe it could be. So now, it's your turn. What's your favorite Beatles song? The one lyric that always gets you? Drop it in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs a little Beatles magic today. And if this journey moved you, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another story that matters. Because some stories, like some songs, never fade. They echo forever.